Today's episode of The Watch is brought to you by Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the new action-adventure game from Respawn Entertainment, taking place between Star Wars Revenge of the Sith and Star Wars A New Hope. Players will wield a lightsaber, hone their force powers, and adventure across the galaxy in hopes of rebuilding the Jedi Order. Become a Jedi in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Available now on Xbox One, PS4, and PC, rated T for teen. Today's episode of The Watch is brought to you by Oris Watches. For over 115 years, Oris has been making purely mechanical watches in Holstein, Switzerland. Staying true to a rich heritage, Oris is one of the few Swiss watch companies to remain independently owned and operated. And watches come in 4 themes: diving, aviation, motorsport, and culture. So Oris has a watch for everyone and every occasion. Shop the collection at oris.ch/podcast. to go your own way. That's oris.ch/podcast to go your own way.
I need support staff to clear the room.
Stand up and walk now.
Hello and welcome to The Watch. My name is Chris Ryan. I am an editor at TheRinger.com, and joining me on the other line, sitting on embargoed information like Randolph and Mortimer Duke, it's Andy Greenwald!
Wow.
Yeah, Orange Juice Futures, bro.
Deep cut. Chris, I'm just so happy to report that, the passage of time remains a constant. I'm here in the parking lot outside of where we're editing, and the leaves have changed. It's like an outtake from the Cider House Rules right now.
Yeah, I love it. I've got a little foliage on my block, too. It's funny that you're talking about the passage of time, Andy, because we've got Yahya Abdul-Mateen II on the show today to talk about his role as Cal ... on Watchmen.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything for people. Obviously, Yahya and I talked about Watchmen as of the penultimate episode 8, which aired Sunday. It's in advance of the season finale this coming Sunday. But forget all that other TV stuff, man, Andy. I know that you have some news for us.
I do. I'm very excited. My main news is, after a year, basically, of working on Briarpatch, I can tell you I think I get glasses now. That's my big news.
Do you really?
I haven't told you this in person. I'm telling the world. I think I'm ready to enter my Clark Kent phase.
Nice.
Because up to now, it's just been straight Superman.
Straight Kal-El.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that this experience has lifted me up in so many ways, but broken me in one specific way: the ability to take in visual information.
Yeah.
So.
You know what high-key sucks
new.
about being 40 but still looking at being in your 40s and staring at your computer screen all day? Is like
Tell me.
That time of the day where you're like, did I just detach my retina? But you're just looking at Vulture, like
I said to myself when I was leaving yesterday, I was leaving work at 10 p.m. and I was looking at the commute home, I was like, how much do I really need to see to remember this route? It's basically a straight shot on the 10. So that's news A. But news B, in all seriousness, is I am really excited to be able to announce what's the name of this podcast again?
Big Picture.
On the Watch podcast, the official premiere date for Briarpatch. And that date is Thursday, February 6th at 10 p.m. on USA Network.
Drop the Chernobyl music.
We got the ER slot, baby.
Yeah.
Thursdays at 10.
I love it. Is that up against Grey's?
Boy, you really know how to take the wind out of a blind guy's sails. I guess so. But look, we live in a world where you don't have to choose one or the other. Just definitely 100% watch Briarpatch live and tape the other show. That's really all I have to say about
Watch
that.
Briarpatch, download Briarpatch legally for your viewing devices. Write to your local councilman and tell them what Briarpatch means to you.
I gotta say, as a fan of old school everything when it comes to television, the fact that not only do I get to be on a regular TV, which is just really cool, I think, but Thursdays at 10, that is that's the hammer. That's LA law, man.
That's really crazy.
That was the slot.
I know, you really did.
So,
you Icon buried up.
I'm very, very excited about that. And I can also let people know that in addition to that premiere day, we are also unveiling the key art, as they say, the high key art, which you'll be seeing hopefully soon on posters and subways and billboards, as well as a new trailer that I'm definitely going to link to. And the Thursdays at 10 thing is big. And the other thing is that there is subway art. And Rosario and I were talking about it, and we both agreed that we didn't even want to see any pictures of it from people. Like, we didn't want friends to take pictures of it in the subways until it was properly defiled.
Yeah.
Because
really,
New York has to come correct on this.
What I'm really hoping for is that we get some sort of recreation of Carrie Bradshaw in the Sex and the City titles where you're walking along and it's just like Briarpatch drives by on a bus and you just make a bashful face, like just a guy out there getting a bagel.
Except someone has drawn an elaborate Snidely Whiplash mustache on Rosario.
Exactly.
And that way we know.
Exactly.
Correct.
Andy,
that's my news.
We're going to get into this Yahya interview in a minute, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask, I know we didn't do our Mandalorian recap this week, so we'll throw that in on Monday. We'll double dip on Mandalorian. But
yes.
I did want to, as some people may have noticed, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker is coming out soon, and the press push is happening in earnest. That's not surprising, but the surprising thing is to see on the sort of rounding third here, quite literally with the third movie, that the Star Wars franchise a little bit, if you were being, if you wanted to look at it a certain way, it's kind of eating itself a little bit. A lot of, not to put fine a point on it, knives out for my boy Rian Johnson and for Last Jedi. In a couple of interviews, John Boyega has mentioned, kind of not being all the way there with Rian Johnson's vision for Last Jedi. I don't want to take anything out of context and unfairly portray it because I know that people are going wild with it now. But then the filmmakers and the cast kind of doubled down on it in a New York Times article written by Dave Itzkoff that I think came out today, in which J.J. Abrams was kind of like dismissive of certain elements of Last Jedi, talking about its meta quality and how that's not really what Star Wars people look for when they go to Star Wars. And then Daisy Ridley said there was like kind of a sigh of relief when it was announced that J.J. Abrams was coming back because it was going to provide a certain structure. And Boyega commented that he wanted to see basically, like, he wanted to get The Force Awakens back. So I just was curious what you thought about this, as we are the preeminent non-binge mode Star Wars Chronicles in the podcast universe.
Yeah, I think it's all really interesting. I mean, I think the first thing you said is probably the most important, which is it's not that quotes are taken out of context, but they're taken and they're amplified.
Yeah.
And we don't know what else was said about Rian Johnson or about that movie. I don't think necessarily, certainly in the part of J.J. Abrams, it doesn't sound like there was any ill will intended, but it's very odd to see a stumble like this from Disney in general, a Disney property, but certainly from one of the largest and preeminent brands in the world, right? It's just not supposed to be this messy. Star Wars was always supposed to be an empire-like monolith of culture that just delivered something that was, undeniable, like the Force. And we've been chronicling this over the last few years, these cracks in that armor, clearly not Mandalorian armor. And, they were media trained on this and they were talked through this, but it does feel like the shakiness at the root of the franchise that's public facing has taken root a little bit on the other side of it as well, right? Like, I don't know if this is it's not really a dog whistle, it's a sarlacc whistle or something, right? To basically say to the fans who were kind of gamergating The Last Jedi that you're welcome back now.
Right.
It's all a little bit odd. And the other thing I would say is, I think being an actor is actually incredibly hard, not coal minery hard, but it's hard because you have to put yourself out there and you have very little control. And so feeling safe is paramount to an actor giving a good performance. But asking them about the safety of the story that they're a part of, I think is kind of a sucker's game, because, what you and I liked about The Last Jedi, and I'll say it right here, you can take it out of context if you want, The Last Jedi was good, full stop, was that it was not safe, was that it poked holes in and chipped away at the veneer of Star Wars as this impeccably perfect sculpted thing and challenged it in really interesting and honestly, for this franchise, radical ways. So it's a bummer, basically.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's coming out of this press thing. I know it's supposed to make everyone feel better and feel relieved, but there was nothing about Force Awakens that made me feel like, boy, this is a bold new direction.
Yeah,
this
one
is what
of
I
the
want
things
to return to.
That Boyega actually pointed out in, I don't know, I read it on the wrap, but I'm not sure where the original interview was, which I suppose speaks to the problem here. But Boyega was talking about how the original trilogy of movies was so solidly about Han, Luke, and Leia, and that trio of characters really drove the original trilogy. And this second trilogy, or this third trilogy, rather, of films, has really been, it was supposed to be about Finn, Poe, and Rey, but it's also about Kylo, but it's also about Han, Luke, and Leia, and also about Snoke and whoever else, and we're not sure, and also, Domhnall Gleeson. There's a lot of they kind of tried to do too much with these three movies, and Boyega, I think, actually got at that, which was perhaps the canvas was too wide. Perhaps we started too many different sub-stories. Yeah. And I think that The Last Jedi tried to lean into that and have as much fun and thoughtful things to say about that as possible. But I think he was actually pointing at something structurally wrong with these three movies. It's just that wasn't Rian Johnson's fault. Those problems were there at Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah. And you said it yourself. I mean, you can't say this movie is about the new and the old at the same time. And The Last Jedi is actually super brilliant because it's about killing the old in the service to the new and how uncomfortable that can be, especially when the new is looking so desperately to the old for a reason to exist or for something to pick up on or for some purpose, right? And the other thing about it is that they threw a lot of characters at us in Force Awakens. I think the other thing about The Last Jedi that was smart is that it said, well, no, the Rey Kylo thing is actually the most interesting one.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate if you happen to be named John Boyega, who is giving a great performance, but doesn't really have that much to do, or certainly didn't have that much to do. And similarly for Oscar Isaac, who is a great actor whom we love, who was supposed to die in The Force Awakens, but I guess either JJ or Kathleen Kennedy or the people who make the action figures were like, don't do that.
Yeah.
So, it's also, I think one of the most telling things about that New York Times article, which I'm sure people will check out, is actually, it ends kind of with a joke that actually gives the whole thing away, where at the very end of it, they're joking about how that they all know this isn't the last time they're going to play these characters, and Oscar Isaac is joking that he's going to be on a Disney Plus series. And the truth is, he probably will be.
Absolutely.
That character was kept alive probably for a Disney Plus series. That's it. And so what kind of resolution are we really looking at with this movie? And I fundamentally just don't know whose story they're trying to resolve. This is a lot of big questions to throw out for a movie that we haven't seen. We haven't talked to anyone who's seen it. Maybe it's great. But for anyone interested in my temperature in this parking lot a week before we see the movie, is that I fundamentally can't believe, but also, of course, they're going to make it all about Palpatine the whole time.
Yes.
Because I guess they felt like this movie needed a Sauron, or they needed to be three trilogies that were actually one story. But who told them they had to do that?
Not Rian Johnson. We'll see how. We'll obviously be talking a lot about Star Wars in the coming weeks. We will obviously be talking about how Watchmen wraps up. We had our interview with Damon Lindelof on Monday. My interview with Yahya Abdul-Mateen II is coming up next. Andy, thanks so much for calling in, man.
Thanks, Baranskis. Talk to you next week.
Later, brother. Today's episode of The Watch is brought to you by The Real Real. Own iconic luxury items at unreal values with The Real Real, the leading reseller of authenticated luxury consignment from top designers. Shop from designers like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Rolex, Cartier, and hundreds more at up to 90% off retail. The Real Real employs over 100 brand authenticators, gemologists, horologists, and art curators who inspect thousands of items each day to ensure that every item is authenticated. New arrivals come in daily, and every single item is authenticated by the Real Real's team of authenticators. Shop and consign women's and men's luxury fashion as well as fine jewelry, watches, art, and home. You can shop and consign online with the app or visit one of the stores in Soho or West Hollywood or their newest location at 870 Madison Avenue in New York. In-store customers receive an automatic $25 off at checkout. And if you're a consignor, don't forget about the Real Real's white glove service for free in-home pickup. Everybody knows it's the holiday season. There's probably someone special in your life that you're looking to get something special for. I really can't recommend The Real Real enough when it comes to that. If you're looking to really make a splash, to really make an impression, or really say, I love you to somebody, check out some of the stuff that they have. Shop in-store, online, or download the app and get 20% off select items with the promo code REAL. That's therealreal.com, promo code REAL for 20% off select items. Today's episode of The Watch is brought to you by American Express. I am one of the lucky few with a commute in LA that only takes about 15 minutes. But I still make the most of my drive by listening to my favorite podcasts. I'll get a head start on shows like House of Carbs, Binge Mode, or The Big Picture, and then I'll finish up the episode when I get to the office. It's a great way to ease myself into the day. No matter what your morning commute looks like, you can ease your mind a little bit, knowing that with Green from Amex, you're getting 3 times the points on travel, including transit like taxis, ride shares, subway swipes, and even ferry rides for those of you who get to enjoy a nice breeze on your way to work. Learn more at americanexpress.com/green from Amex. Terms apply. Today's episode of The Watch is brought to you by Pepsi. There are a lot of things to celebrate these days in pop culture, and Pepsi can take all of your celebrations to the next level. Whether your favorite show returns for a new season, your favorite director releases a new movie, or your favorite band drops a new album, when it's time to celebrate, it's time to crack open a Pepsi. So one of the things that's going to happen on Sunday is we're just going to get an incredible pop culture night because we got a full day of football, which is going to be really exciting because there's so many playoff races still going. And then we all get up to the end where we get to watch the Watchmen season finale. You're going to need to power yourself through it, brothers, sisters. So why not crack open a Pepsi to help you do it? Pepsi's the best way to kind of celebrate a Sunday spent on the couch watching television. What's more American than that? Pepsi is the official sponsor of the NFL, so shout out to the NFL for having relevant games in December. And it reminds you to always be celebrating. All right, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, thank you so much for joining me on The Watch, man.
Yeah, man.
What a week for you.
It's going down. I hardly even know what day it is today. I'm just kind of here.
Yeah, so this is...
I'm glad to be here, though.
Yeah, man, we've been watching it's been one of those shows that, like, really has that, almost like that Game of Thrones feel where, like, you can feel the anticipation building towards Sunday.
Yeah.
And then there's, like, this collective watching experience happening on Sundays. But I was kind of curious because I know you've been, like, following along with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
If you could think of, like, what's the most unintentionally funny thing someone said to you in the weeks leading up to 7 before, like, the reveal? Like, if somebody was, like, anybody who you know kind of like, damn, dude, why'd you do Watchmen? You're not even doing anything.
That's the most fun. I mean, no one really said it beforehand, but yesterday I was talking to my friends, my guys who keep it honest with me, or at least who I hope are keeping honest with me. And just yesterday they said, yeah, man, he said, man, why'd you keep this away from me, for so long? Because, usually I let them know about all the things that I'm doing.
Right.
And he said, yeah, if I would have known that, I would have felt a lot better about telling other people to watch it, And I said, yeah, I know. The whole time that they were just thinking, man, he really took this role. He said, yeah, you only had about 5 lines in the first 7 episodes.
I know, it's because if you go back to, I've been going back and watching your parts throughout the season, and there's 2 reasons why it's so cool. One, it's very funny because if you're your friend or whatever, you're just like, damn, so you did this role and all you do is say, honey, your pager has been going off.
And okay.
Yeah, and okay.
Yeah.
But then if you go back and you rewatch, I was rewatching the dinner scene with you and Regina and Don Johnson, and you can just read every single line differently now. I mean, when Don Johnson says, this is what you get for skipping out on Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You're so mystified about this. And she's like, you hate musicals.
Yeah.
But now you know that she's actually just like filling in a blank and telling you hate musicals. Have you gone back and rewatched any of the older episodes now?
I hadn't. But one of the things that I, early on, after I found out about the big reveal and things like that and about Cal's past, I said, man, I thought that she was sort of a manipulative character a little bit. There was a couple weeks where I was looking at Angela a little bit differently.
Really?
Because she was a character who was keeping Cal in the dark. Cal didn't know, and now we know why he didn't know or why she would not have told him.
Yeah.
But Cal literally didn't know, so everything that he was getting from her. And so there was a couple weeks where I was preparing my work, and I had the opportunity to say, how does what kind of character is Angela? Is she someone who can really, really, truly be trusted? Because she's sort of guiding, like you said, she has to have been spoon feeding Cal a lot of the information about him, and he doesn't know. So he goes along with the plan.
But
she can always blame it on his accident.
Yeah, and then there's also just like she's explaining his preferences too. I mean, to some extent, his physical form is her choice, right? And then like everything about him is kind of shaped in terms of like almost being like the perfect man in a lot of ways. It's kind of fascinating to think about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Angela is like Angela's agency there.
Yeah, she makes him patient. She probably, fed that he's very understanding, that he loves to cook, loves to clean and stay at home. He says, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I do.
That sounds great.
I guess I do like to do those things.
One of the really cool things about the show is, and you've done like human drama. Like I really loved First Match, for instance. You know what I mean? And and
Thank you.
which people can catch on Netflix. And if you like sports movies, like you should just definitely check it out. Like it's just like a really moving drama. And then you'll do like superhero, like pop art action, like Aquaman. Like Watchmen seems like it's a combination of both, right? Like you get to have the intimate human interactions, even in the Saigon bar scenes and stuff like that, while also satisfying. Like I get to float.
Yeah.
And blow people's heads. Like, was that an attraction in the material? That combination of the best of two worlds?
Definitely. You know, I like to chase. You know, appetite has really been the word for me over the past couple years, and that's why my work is so varied. That's why I like to think that my work is so varied, because my appetite changes. So, you know, I do something like The Greatest Showman. Pardon, and then my appetite changes, and I want to go do something like Aquaman. Immediately after Aquaman, I knew that I had to do something with 2 feet in the ground and just be a regular guy, like I say, a guy on a Tuesday with a problem. And then I went and I did Handmaid's Tale, and then after that, I went and I did Black Mirror, which was which was a different type of world. Thank you, I appreciate it. And Watchmen came around when I had the appetite to do something that was a bit more exciting than Black Mirror. I wanted to do something that I could commit to for a while, and it was the perfect opportunity to go in and do something that was heightened, but also, or that had the possibility of being heightened, but that was also grounded in some real world events and with some history and really heavy stakes.
Yeah.
So for me, it was really a perfect opportunity to do something that was a mixture between the two.
I was curious, without giving away too many state secrets, how not necessarily Damon and the writing team like presents the truth about your character, but how you go out about like finding out about what this show is going to be about. Like, is there like a presentation that's like, look, this is the history of everything that's happened since Watchmen that we're presenting to you guys? Like, do you guys get like a show Bible to kind of study? Like, how do you immerse yourself in like all the factual, like, or at least the factual stuff for the show?
Yeah.
That the show's going to be dealing. This is the reality. Yeah.
Well, for me, that wasn't a real part of it. A real part of the process for me. You know, I came on after all those decisions had been made, and they were, you know, in terms of myself, I was looking for a job, and Cal was the opportunity. So I stepped on, and I learned. I learned once I read the pilot. You know, so the pilot was sort of my Bible into the world that we were creating.
Sure.
I learned that we would be dealing with real events from history, such as the Oklahoma massacre, and I learned that you know, just with the world of Watchmen, that it's a sort of a parallel universe, and so I knew that there would be possibilities of going in a lot of different directions. But really, the pilot was my introduction and letting me know the territory that I was going to step into. It was so well written. It was an adventure. It was a whodunit mystery, and you know, there were a lot of elements that let me know that there's a lot of potential. Now that said, Damon and the writing staff would have always been available had I knocked on the door and asked and say, okay, what's the scope of this thing that we're doing? Why is it important? But I think also because of the complexities of the show, Damon was also very careful of when to give out information. I didn't even know that I was playing the character that I ended up playing until I shot two episodes in.
Right.
You know, and then I sat down and had a conversation on the couch, and that's when I learned. So he was very, very judicial with specific with parsing out information and including the cast on the bigger picture.
Did you, when you found out, were you like, I wish I'd known this for the pilot necessarily? No. Like, do you think you're glad you didn't?
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't because I got a chance to really develop a real attachment to Cal.
Wow.
And Cal needed to be a fully fleshed out person, as fully fleshed out as he could be, so that when it came time to make the change, that people had an emotional attachment to Cal. And so I wanted people to experience Cal and to say Cal was a guy who was a man, who was a lover, who was sort of a simple guy, but who was confident in his position. He was a protector, and he was really like a backbone for Angela in her chaotic life. And I didn't want to muddy that with projecting onto something else that was something more mysterious.
Yeah.
And it really gave me the opportunity to really focus on one character at a time and not muddy the two.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say it that way, because then I imagine even once the reveal happens, the first sort of really piece of acting that we see of you doing that is you with your hands.
Yeah.
Which is, but it's kind of remarkable because like it kind of goes along with this idea is like, how would you stare a god in the face?
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about shooting the Saigon bar scene? Because I thought that was so remarkable, but you're still acting with like your collarbone and your hands and your wrists and stuff. Like, tell me a little bit about blocking that and playing that scene with Regina.
Well, first, I was so excited to get to my episode, right? To get to the episode where I get to do my thing. I kind of been, in the shadows for 7 episodes, happy about my position and everything, but not really getting to, really take on something in the way that I know that I can. And I get to the script, and there's like 16 or 17 pages of bar scene, and I have on a mask. And I'm like, come on, guys, like, you get to my thing and you're not even going to film me? Like, what's going on? So that was the first thing. But after you get over yourself and you go up and you show up and you do the job. And it really turned out to be a gift, because I got to sit down and play with Dr. Manhattan and to learn about his physicality of this new character, to live inside of this new body that I'm bringing to the camera without the pressures of really performance, you know? And so I got to spend a couple of days inside of this different type of physical container and learning about the ways that he's, precise with his movements and the way that he articulates himself and his body language and his voice. And I just kind of got to work on things without the added pressure of knowing that this was what the entire performance was going to be. I kind of got to piece it out and things like that a bit. And then it doesn't hurt when you get to sit across from Regina King,
right?
And just and that becomes my job for a couple of days.
Yeah, it's such a remarkable scene, because for the entire season, like we were talking about earlier, like there is a degree to which Angela is managing Cal and is kind of like keeping him in the dark about certain things, obviously, but is definitely shaping him. And then that's the first time we get to hear Cal's voice, so to speak. Speaking for himself and also kind of coming from a position of the utmost power. Almost spiritual levels of power.
Yeah.
I was curious because, I know that you went to school, you went to Cal for architecture and worked in city planning. This might be a little bit of like an out there question, but I was wondering whether there's a part of you that can see story in the way that some people might see blueprint drawings, or like that you think you have whether or not you feel like your background in that field gives you an appreciation for the narrative construction and the kind of things that Damon and the team were trying to do with the show, and all the different layers and all the different like digressions that eventually kind of come back together, and whether that gives you a heightened appreciation.
I think the thing that you're touching on that I identify with is layers, piecing together story in many different layers. There was a time where I used to, in walking around in the world, I used to literally. There were always red lines that I would see. And the red lines would be connecting one building to another building and one platform to another platform. I was always designing in my head the world that I was moving in with red lines. Now I sort of take that same brain, and I'm sort of always crafting stories, always looking at images. Those lines have turned into images, and people turned into opportunities to piece people and scenarios together and tell stories. So I think and also just as an actor, I think I've become really comfortable with physical space, and having my spatial awareness. We like to call that 360-degree awareness, just the physical awareness of everything in my surrounding. And I think that definitely helps me as an actor. But listening to story, and experiencing story from the multi-layers in the way that Damon does, that's a very unique talent that he has. And it can be a challenge to put on, to attempt to step in, to step into that brain.
Because you're like one part of it, right?
Yeah.
Because like when you guys are doing, your scenes together, you and Regina, like you're probably quasi-aware of like the Gene Smart element of it, and like Gene Smart's calling your character on a payphone and stuff like that. Like, how much of that stuff are you drawing from, or how much of that stuff have you, or is that more of like after the experience you kind of go back and look at that?
It's sort of like that. It's sort of after the experience you go back, or even when you read it and you know about it, but if you can't use it at the time, I don't try to force it in.
Yeah.
But like with the guy with Dr. Manhattan is, the challenge was. He's experiencing everything all at the same time. Now, if I sit down and I try to play that, I'm never gonna make it. The performance is gonna be a mess. I'm either gonna be doing everything, or I'm gonna be stuck doing nothing. So I try to take each moment one at a time and let the writing and let the editing and let everything else show that I'm actually in multiple places. And so it's sort of, I kind of flip it, and instead of doing it all at one time, I do one thing at one time, and let it all equate to me doing it all.
So you're just thinking about like, how is my hand gonna move in this thing?
Yeah, I just try to stay extremely present, because I think that's the thing with a guy like that character. He's extremely present. He just happens to be extremely present everywhere all at the same time.
Yeah.
I just have I have the luxury of them filming me at one time. They're filming me in the bar, so I'm gonna be as present as I can in the bar, and as present as I can with Angela, unless there's scenes where where he admits to being distracted and things like that. So yeah, he was definitely a challenge stepping into that. Probably the most challenging thing that I've done on film to date.
You're watching along with people. I know that you do a lot of stuff on social media where you're like kind of very much present for people as they're kind of watching the episode.
Yeah.
I was wondering what's been the most like heartwarming and affirming thing that you've seen, and also what was the most surprising thing that you've seen as you've kind of been looking through people's responses to the show.
Just people are. It's kind of funny, and it's kind of funny that there's a couple things. One of the reactions is that the people don't realize that I'm the same person from Aquaman, or they don't realize that I'm the guy from The Get Down or a First Match or something like that.
Yeah.
So just watching, there's a certain pocket of the internet that are, that I get to watch discover me for the first time over and over and over. And I'm like, oh, I remember you said the same thing. Like, this person said the same thing a year ago about something. Like, oh, my God, who is this new actor?
That's very Dr. Manhattan-esque, that experience.
Yeah. Just watching people experience me and learn who I am over and over. And then, people just really appreciating my versatility as an actor, and saying that they're really happy for me, that I've got to really sink my teeth into something and things like that. That's been nice, celebrating the success with people who have been watching me as I've been growing for the past couple of years. So, that's been really nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Damon was in this week. He came by on the pod and he was talking about a lot of like the anxiety that he had going into the project. I think mostly rooted in the idea of satisfying like pre-existing Watchmen fans.
Yeah.
And my partner and I, Andy, were kind of like, yeah, but the thing is that you guys created like a whole new generation of Watchmen fans who are now going to think of Yahya as Dr. Manhattan, like that, and they see themselves in that, and that's incredible. Like that is actually like a miracle when you think about like how toxic and fucked up pop culture can be these days. Like that's a pretty amazing experience.
Yeah, I mean that's been a very rewarding part of the conversation. Also, is people saying like we get this new image of Dr. Manhattan, or wow, a God lives in the body of a black man. And being so moved by that and being so inspired by that. And you're right, there's a whole new generation of people who, and a whole new demographic actually, who would not consider themselves fans of comics, fans of the Watchmen. They wouldn't have been tuned into this show.
Yeah.
But you get someone like Regina King, and we talk about some of the subject matter that we're tackling in our show, and all of a sudden people are, it's opening up a whole new watching, a whole new viewing experience where people are saying, oh wow, I'm a fan of this comic.
Yeah.
I'm a Watchmen fan.
Yeah.
And then I'm down with Dr. Manhattan and and things like that. So it's really been nice to be a part of those conversations, and really, really reinforcing the ideas that representation matters. Even for myself, I was a guy who didn't think that it was possible to be an actor until I saw Marshawn Lynch, actually, running back for the Seattle Seahawks. We went to Berkeley together, and I saw him on television, and that really just demystified the idea that the people in the television were just that, the people in the box.
Like you saw him on TV just when he was playing at Cal? Like
I saw him on TV when he went pro.
Oh, okay.
So I saw him at Cal.
Yeah.
But when he went pro, that's when I was like, oh, he's one of those people that's inside of the box.
Yeah.
So I can do that, and it's crazy because I had it's crazy that it took someone that I knew to see them in that position. And then that made me think that I could be an actor, or think about something else. So it was really about, representation, and about seeing someone that you can relate to succeed or be projected, in a certain way. And I have to imagine that in the capacity of being a part of the Watchmen world, of playing this character, that people are being inspired in the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that must have been around, what, like 08, 09 when he came into the league?
So, yeah,
I think like that.
somewhere around there.
And
maybe 2007 or something like that, yeah.
So that's right when like the sort of comic book movie boom starts, right? That's like, I guess Batman Begins is 05 and then Iron Man's 08. When you were in school, when you were even just like, when you were just studying architecture, were you like really into these movies, or was this something No,
I wasn't a guy who went to the movies. I didn't go to the movies much.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I saw, I'm still seeing movies for the first time. I mean, I saw The Godfather for the first time 2 years ago. I saw Shawshank Redemption.
Did you like it?
2 years. I did like it. And I was I mean, it was really cool that I could experience that as an adult, that I can come to it for the first time. There, so many people saying, oh man, this is the first time you've seen it. I wish I could sit down right now as an adult and watch that for the first time and have that experience.
You also find out when you watch Godfather that like half of the things people say to each other are from Godfather movies.
Right. You get to see so many things. And also, what was that? In Shawshank Redemption. You know, I remember in high school, you would write on your desk, you know, Yahya was here, or so-and-so was here. And all this, and that can be traced back to Shawshank.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where it goes to before that, but I didn't know that I was being influenced by that movie. You know, so there's so many things that I'm just coming to now and experiencing, because I was never thought of myself as an actor. That was not the plan at all, and so I wasn't, you know, really crazy about movies or anything like that growing up.
Have you nerded out since then, or even since Watchmen's come out? Like, have you started looking at like Reddit, or like do you know the PDpedia thing that they put up? Where because they had like Calvin's medical report up there.
Yep.
And
I posted that on my Instagram.
Oh, you did? Yeah, I was very excited that he was from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I was like, solid.
Yeah, man. I mean, the fans and the supporters, they go deep. They really go deep. And that's really cool to be a part of something where, you know, I care about it, and then there's conversation online. But then with Reddit, and there's just a whole new community, a whole different community of people that have their, and it's so dope that they can have their experience and their passion validated. Like there's a space for them. And I imagine, you know, even, you know, when I was in high school, the kids who liked comics and they were just like, that was just a little bit too.
They were
weird.
dorks, yeah.
Weird for me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
for sure.
And I was a kid who was in the debate team, in the chess club. I played chess every day at lunchtime. I was on the basketball and track team as well. But I was a geek I was a geek.
Yeah.
You know, me and my two best friends, I can't believe I'm saying this, we wore turtlenecks every Thursday. You know what I mean? Just like, but comics, that was too far.
Was it Turtleneck Thursday?
It was like
actually
something
like that?
Yeah, we wore turtlenecks on Thursday. It was like Turtleneck Thursday. I can't believe I'm saying that. But we did it, and we were still cool.
Yeah.
You know, we were like on the varsity basketball and football team and things like that. But
so you were walking around rocking a turtleneck, but you were like, but I can't read Batman.
I'm not reading comics. I'm not reading comics and anime. I'm just not one of those, because people like, they say that this is how there's like a meme of how kids used to run up the hallway with their hands back and with both of their arms back and leaning forward. And it's like true. This is how they used to run up the hallways. And these were the kids who read the comic books. And I was like, you guys are freaking weird.
Yeah, but I'm going to chess team.
Right. Because you guys are weird. I'm going to chess, and after that, I'm going to debate. But you guys are too weird for me. But it's nice that they have a space where they're validated, and damn right. Too.
Yeah, and now they're the only game in town, it seems like.
Right. And they're probably writing our shows. You know what I mean?
I wanted to kind of circle back to something you said in the beginning, where you were talking about talking to your friends about your work and how you like to just kind of be upfront about it. But it seems like if anybody looks at your IMDb page, you're going to have to be tight-lipped for the foreseeable future.
It's really all that I do in my work. Really, I don't know how I do any press. I can't
just
talk about anything.
NDAs.
Yeah, Candyman can't talk about that. Aquaman can't talk about that. Aquaman 2 can't talk about that. The Matrix can't talk about that.
Can you even talk about Chicago 7?
Yeah, you know, I can't. I think so. I haven't been told that I can't. So I may as well. I should hurry up and do it while I can before they tell me to hush
Have
up.
you guys started working on that yet?
Yeah, I finished that. I finished that just last Thursday.
What was it like doing Sorkin dialogue?
Dope, man. I mean, and it's not even like everyone thinks that, you know, you have to speak really fast. That's not true. There's just not a lot of action, you know. Yeah. And you know, the dialogue is a character. You know, you just kind of lean into it and say the words. The thing that's so cool about working with Aaron Sorkin is that, at least that I found cool, is that I didn't need a lot of direction, a lot of help, because the writing is so good that all you really got to do is, and I hope this doesn't sound like a slight to Aaron, but all you have to do is cast it really well, you build an excellent world and you write it well, you cast it well, and then you get actors who can follow the blueprint.
Yeah.
And sort of you can step out of the way and then let good actors do the thing, So I was in a room with Eddie Redmayne and Mark Rylance, Sacha Baron Cohen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Frank Langella. I mean, every day, just being in the space, playing and exchanging energy. So that was a phenomenal experience. You talk about wanting, appetite, and that's something that I've definitely had the appetite to do for a very long time.
That's incredible. I can't wait to see that. I'm not going to bother you with questions about Matrix and Candyman that you can't answer. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on The Watch, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure.
Today's episode of The Watch is brought to you by Pepsi. There are a lot of things to celebrate these days in pop culture, and Pepsi can take all of your celebrations to the next level. Whether your favorite show returns for a new season, your favorite director releases a new movie, or your favorite band drops a new album, when it's time to celebrate, it's time to crack open a Pepsi. Man, I can't wait to crack open a Pepsi and watch the season finale of Watchmen on Sunday. We've had a lot of great stuff from Watchmen this week on the pod. It's been an incredible, I guess it'll be 9 weeks now, of everybody gathering, watching the show, talking about it on Twitter, talking about it on podcasts the next day, writing about it. So excellent. Pepsi is the official sponsor of the NFL, and they remind you to always be celebrating. Today's episode of The Watch was brought to you by The Real Real. Shop or consign at The Real Real, the leading reseller of authenticated consignment from top designers. The Real Real has women's and men's luxury fashion, as well as fine jewelry, watches, art, and home at up to 90% off retail. Every item is authenticated by The Real Real's team of authenticators. Shop or consign in-store at therealreal.com or download the app and get 20% off select items with the promo code REAL.